Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, August 7th. Appreciate you being here. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by and powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door. And the best in new and used vehicles. And Endeavor Hospitality with the Wow Food Group. And it's a family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like the Chop Shop, located right on the south side of Bloomington, close to Bloomington South High School. If you're down in the area, great steakhouse in addition to in-house made products and custom meats. How's everybody doing? How was your weekend? Hope you had a good one. Plenty to talk about on the program today. Nothing happened over the weekend. Let's see. The U.S. women's team didn't get beat. The Reds are not on another slide. The Cubs are surging. And the Big Ten is now the Big 18. And the Pac-12 is now the Pac-4. So all kinds of craziness happening in the world of sports. And so we'll be talking about each and every bit of it today. Looking forward to talking to Dustin Dopirak as he'll join us later on. How was your weekend? How about the Cubbies, man? They're surging. The Reds are sliding. They've lost 6 straight. Again, second time this month they've lost 6 straight, and the third time this season. So not good for the Reds. Worse. How would you like to be rookie Lyon Richardson of the Reds? His first 2 major league pitches. His debut was yesterday against whoever they were playing, Washington. Oh, yeah. And the worst thing is the Reds get swept by Washington, last place Nationals, who haven't swept the Reds in 4 years since they won the World Series. But Lyon Richardson making his debut yesterday, his first 2 major league pitches, gone. Dingers. First time in 50 years that has happened. So he will have the distinct notice of that. Hopefully he can get by that and come on, but that would sure suck. He throws two fastballs to start the game, and they just sat on him and jacked them both. Man, I think after that first one, I'd have just gone with anything. Curveball, I'd have thrown a off speed anything. Something. They were waiting for him, man. They jacked him. Good to see everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline as well. Fred, Scott, John, Kent, Fred. Hope you guys are doing well. Don't forget, you can also find us on YouTube at Indiana Sports Beat Radio if you don't have us on radio. And, of course, we're findable on every podcast platform as well. The Reds, man, their pitching is just they made no moves at the trade deadline, and I guess they just thought that they could just hope to get by. They were and they still are in a divisional race, but they're going to slide not only out of the division race, but out of the wild card race. You cannot lose chunks of games in a row like that and expect to succeed. But, hey, I didn't expect the Reds to be in first place this year anyway, so there's that. So we'll take it. The U.S. women's national team, 2-time reigning World Cup champions, no more as they go down and out 1-0 on PKs. And 3 kickers missed the goal entirely. They didn't get blocked. They just missed the entire goal, including my least favorite athlete of all time, probably. I won't say of all time, not least favorite athlete. probably least favorite female athlete. Missed her last shot of her career. Didn't seem to bother her much. But that wouldn't surprise me. She doesn't seem to be much of an American anyway. Oh, well. Yeah, there was another issue with U.S. women's national team. There were several of them that were, during the national anthem, refused to put their hands on their hearts nor sing the national anthem, which, if you weren't singing just because you don't like to sing or whatever, it'd be one thing. But when you purposely do it to protest something that you don't tell anybody what you're protesting about, it looks pretty stupid to me. But I'm not into politics. As you know, we don't do politics here. But there are just certain things that are just ignorant to me. You're ignorant. You're not a politician. Yes, you have a stage, but you know what? You have that stage during press conferences and things of that nature. If you want to say something, all I think they do when they do things like that is embarrass themselves and embarrass the country. Especially when you don't know what the hell they're protesting. That's the funny thing. Which it's not funny, but oh well. That's all the time of mine that they're worth. So they're gone. Let's see. James, nice to see you, man. Never seen you on here. James P. hitting us up. Where are you from? But he's got a question. If football is everything in college, then when should IU, Purdue, Northwestern start to worry about getting bumped in the Big Ten for better football programs? Good question, but they should never have to worry about it, James, because guess what? The Big Ten, all conferences need the Ohio States, the Penn States, the Michigans, the UCLAs, the USCs, but they also need the Marylands, the Rutgers, the Indianas, the Purdues. Got to have punching bags. Every conference has them. And it's sad to say, but every conference has punching bags. And it's up to those particular programs to not be a punching bag and make a commitment to that. Now, I'm not saying, I'll just use Indiana as an example. I'm not saying Indiana has to try to become Ohio State in football. Probably not going to happen. Pretty good. We've got a pretty good track record of looking back at it and seeing, probably not going to happen. But they don't have to be Ohio State in football. They just need to be competitive. And I was wondering, is this good or bad? This, and when I say this, I'm talking about the mergers, the realignment. Thank you, James from Richmond, Indiana. Appreciate you over there, man, on the Ohio border. But I was wondering, I wrote this down. Is this, and I'll talk to Dustin more about this when he joins us. But Indiana, Rutgers, Purdue, Minnesota, those type schools. Is this good or bad for those schools in football? Right now, Oregon, Washington, they haven't always been great. And they're not Ohio State or Michigan right now. They've had a lot more success than the programs I just talked about recently. But Indiana has to make a commitment to football. I think that Purdue has started to. They've got brand new facilities. They are completing a renovation of their football stadium right now. Now they're not going to have a good. I don't expect them to have a good season because they just had a new coach. So you've got a lot of change. Lost your quarterback. It's not going to be a good year for them. But is this also an opportunity for Indiana and Purdue's and all those schools to make that commitment to get a little better, just become competitive with the teams that are not in the top 10, in the top 15? If you can just compete with those teams and win some of those games, you know what? Indiana fans would be fine with going 6-6 every year. And maybe they should be, especially now. Getting to a bowl game, that should be more than enough. And as long if they were competitive against these teams, people would love it. If you're bringing in UCLA or USC or Oregon or Washington and they're competing with these teams, the fans should love that. That should give them more reason to come. But Indiana has to do their part. And people can talk about, well, they've done all this and that and then the other thing, the facilities. Oh, baloney. Everything they've done to facilities is 20 years behind. So they caught up to where they were supposed to be, but by the time they caught up, they're behind again because the river doesn't stop moving, people. So they're still behind. Today, because of the rain, they'll be practicing in one of the most mundane indoor facilities that I've seen. I say it all the time. Good God Almighty, please, people, put a coat of paint and some lights in that thing. Let's boom. A fresh coat of paint and some lights is all it would take to make that thing look brand new. Does that matter? Yeah, I think it does, because you walk in there and it's just really ho-hum. Coaching. And I'm not talking about just Tom Allen or any, all across the board, every positional coach. Indiana has to be able to hire and pay better coaches. When Tom Allen had to pay the buyout for Darren Hiller, that spoke volumes about the commitment to the program. The offensive line was just killing Indiana football. And Tom Allen had to buy his way out of that. You can't do that. We've got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up. Dustin Dopirak's going to join me. We'll talk about the alignment, realignment, mergers. You got Florida State, which I don't know what their argument is. They cracked me up. We'll talk about them as well, as they want a bigger piece of the ACC pie. Why? I'm like, what have you done? What have you done in football in 10 years? What have they done in basketball? Nada. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this. All right. Great comments over here. Let's get to these. No, Cabrera, you can't hear anything today, people. I'm self-producing. Great to be back. James, great to thanks for jumping on from Richmond. We'd love to find a radio station over there. If there's one in Richmond that you listen to there, or that carries sports, or that you think would be good on, let me know and give them a call as well, please. So Kent's from Richmond as well. Yes, Dave, the Reds are a dumpster fire at the moment. Good morning to you, Five Lefts. No, I do not expect them to stay at 18. I think that they're going to go to the full 20. Because, see, then you're back to divisions, man. Hell, you could have 4 divisions. 4 or 5 team divisions. Yeah, how do we do that? Let's see, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, you got Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's August 7th. Appreciate you joining us. Of course, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from the former Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. It's now the Rusty Gator. Great Cajun cuisine, all handmade, fresh every day. Make sure you stop down there. It's the former Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford, located right downtown. So make sure you stop by there. And don't forget Southern Stone, of course, located right next door to Feast. Some of the greatest food in all of Bloomington. And all serving Metalworks Breweries as well. Thanks a lot for joining us back here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Appreciate you joining us. Lots of questions hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Larry hitting in from frozen Las Vegas. My goodness, brother. First of all, appreciate you getting up and at it out in Sin City. Point, I was talking about the Florida State situation. Florida State went to the college football playoff in 2014 with James Winston, lost to Oregon. Yeah, that's what I've said. That's why I cut it off at 10 years. They haven't done anything in the last 10 years or 9 years, whatever you want to say. But since then, they haven't done jack, and they've really fallen off. Jimbo Fisher left because of all that stuff. Let's see. Where are some? I saw somebody else. James says he thinks IU needs to take advantage of the West Coast expansion and recruit more in California, especially. Well, I think that that's going to be across the board for everybody. Now, I'm going to assume you're talking in football there. I think Indiana, under the current regime, will continue to recruit where they've recruited. But they're now recruiting against, well, if they try to go to the West Coast, they'd be recruiting against USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Nebraska, Iowa. So there's 6 teams they'd have to get through first to get to those players. But I'm sure they would take anybody from anywhere, but they're probably going to stick to where they have the most familiarity, or the coaches that are on the staff. If someone new comes in and they're from a specific area, then that opens up a different vein. But generally, coaches come in with their recruiting pipelines that they have had, or they're just given a different one. But we'll see. Tanis says IU will always be behind in football until they get Tom Allen some help building the program, starting with college equivalent of the front office. He needs guidance. There's no question that the best seasons for Tom Allen came early when he had his best two coordinators, Kane Wobbeck, who's now the head coach at South Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer, who is now the head coach at Washington, who will soon be in the Big Ten playing against Indiana. So for those of you, any of you that had hoped to see Kalen DeBoer in Bloomington again, well, you're going to get your wish, but I think it's going to be on the opposite sideline. How weird would it have been had this happened a year sooner and Caleb DeBoer and Michael Penix Jr. played against Indiana? The scheduling next year will include Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC next seasons. They have to redo the schedule. Now, obviously, I'm thinking they're going to have all four West Coast teams play each other. That would be stupid not to, since they were already scheduled to do so anyway. And someone asked, let's see, who was it? Someone mentioned there we go. Kent, is the Big Ten going to stay at 18 teams or round it out at 20? He said could be two divisions, East and West, 10 teams each. Well, they just got rid of the divisions, which is divisions, at least in the Big Ten, killed teams like Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers. When you force them to play Michigan State, Penn State, and Michigan State, plus probably Iowa or Wisconsin, year in, year out, that's a tough row to hoe. So to be able to get some relief from that is great. And it also gives fans a different view. So I don't know about returning to divisions. I don't know how you manage 18 or even 20 teams. You could have 4 divisions. You could have 4 5-team divisions for that matter. And now that would not be, maybe that wouldn't be bad, especially if you could tweak them if you need to. The one thing I think the Big Ten should have done, they should have tweaked the divisions. I'm glad they got rid of them, but long before they did that, they should have tweaked them. Damn. You cannot have it was just so weighted for nearly a decade. Just do it. It didn't matter who you played as far as what your record was in the Big Ten, how they ran it. Fred says he would not be surprised if the Big Ten goes to 20. Virginia, North Carolina could be added since ACC is going downhill. Here's the thing about the ACC. Florida State wants out of the ACC or just more money. But the problem is the ACC has a media rights deal that runs through 2036. And I'm not sure if they can get out of it or how they would go about getting out of it. Or if they were to join the Big Ten, it would probably be still money ahead. They would have to pay a buyout, but they would be making more money in the Big Ten and pay the buyout. Get a loan from the Big Ten for a long-term payback. I don't know. Not that I'm saying that the Big Ten should take Florida State. They don't bring a lot other than, they're a name, but the TV market is so. It does put you in Florida, East Coast. I was thinking, and Virginia, that would be a good ad. Duke, North Carolina. Can you imagine that? Because this has all been about football so far. Because football is the engine that drives the train from a money standpoint, the TV standpoint. But basketball is gigantic for some of these schools. UCLA. USC is, man, they were about to explode. I don't know what's going to happen with Bronny James. But they were huge. Oregon. How are they going to handle, we talk about how the scheduling, how are you going to schedule it in basketball? They play a 20-game schedule, and if there's currently 18 teams, are you going to cut most of those down to single games? Maybe all of them to single games and not have or one protected rival. So you have a home and home with at least one school, say Purdue for Indiana. Or maybe two. That would just get you to, or maybe you don't play everybody and you do a home and home like they currently do it, where you have home and home with a percentage of the teams, and that's going to be interesting, the scheduling. And everybody worries about the travel. Travel don't mean jack for the bigger teams. They travel all the time. Who cares if you're on a plane for 2 hours or 3 hours? It doesn't matter. But the smaller, the Olympic sports, they're going to have, I think they're going to have mass meets. Makes it easy. Where you have, if it's cross country, hell, half the conference goes to some place. Half the conference goes to another place. Volleyball, you do 4-team round robins. Golf, same thing. All of those sports you can have. Wrestling, you can just make it a bigger weekend. So that's, I don't see that as being a problem. The Big Ten has just become a Goliath. And not that the SEC is going to be hurt in any way in football, but they're kind of hemmed in. I say geographically, whereas the Big Ten, it doesn't matter. They've gone coast to coast. The SEC currently is within one continuous box. You wrap around Missouri, go down to Texas, and just go down the coast, around Florida, up to Virginia, across Kentucky. You just got the entire southeast. But the Big Ten is coast to coast, PB. New York, that's another thing. The Big Ten now has the TV markets in New York with Rutgers, Los Angeles with USC, UCLA, Chicago with Northwestern. The Big Ten is there. Wisconsin, of course, a lot of Chicago fans or fans in Chicago. Washington, D.C. with Maryland. You've got Detroit with the Michigan teams. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia with Penn State. You got some big TV markets. What's this going to mean for money-wise? Now, adding USC and UCLA is going to mean more money for all of these Big Ten teams. But I don't know if adding Washington and Oregon is going to jack it up anymore or not. James says he thinks the Big Ten goes to 20 teams and 4 divisions of 5, which that would make it easy. Like I said, and I think if you do that, as long as you leave it what I would call flex divisions, to where you cannot get into a situation where you have the old Big Ten East. Frankie, Fred, I appreciate you. Yes, please hit the like button if you're following us on YouTube. Philip says Oregon and Washington will alleviate the travel issues. Expect to play a West Coast trip annually. Absolutely. Absolutely. You will go someplace. You're going to go to either UCLA, USC, Oregon, or Washington. That's not that big of a deal. And with the West Coast teams playing each other, there's 3 games. You had Nebraska, Iowa, there's 4 or 5. So you need 4 more. They're going to have 4 trips. No, 4 games. So they're going to get some of those home games. So it's not. Man, these teams play each other all the time. Preseason or whatever. Does it suck to see the Pac-12 go down? Yeah, it does. But they weren't. It was their own fault. That's the sad part of it is. And most of it lies at the hands of the commissioner, the guy that was commissioner from like 2009 to 2021, Scott. His son actually was a walk-on the IU basketball team as recently as a couple of years ago. But he absolutely destroyed the Pac-12. And then George Klavikoff just put the final shovels of dirt on their coffin. Tana says he does not want to see that 4 divisional race. Am I late for a break? Oh, no. We do need to hit one, though. We'll talk more about the realignment, scheduling, all kinds of craziness going on. Dustin Dopirak from Indianapolis Star joins us next. We're back with that more right after this. Hello, Dustin Dopirak. I'm your producer.
Hello. What's going on, Jim? How you doing, Jim?
Just feel like ground control to Major Tom. Nothing happened over the weekend. Nothing to see here, people. Keep moving along. Nothing on here. Man, it's funny. We kind of all knew it was going to happen, expected it, but when it actually happens, we go crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's nuts. Like on a whole, it's nuts. Like I think, even if you see it coming down the track, you're like, well, this is gonna be crazy. And like I think it's still I didn't expect USC UCLA. And from that point forward, like there's not really anything that you can't do. Like once you've crossed the Rubicon of, we're going to add Pacific Coast schools to a Midwestern/Eastern conference. And we're just not going to care about geography at all. That's, I think, still the thing that blows my mind, because it's just like for the Pacific Coast Conference to have a conference on the Pacific Coast just dissolves. Like, it just seems like there's just no center now,
and not just a conference, but a conference that was over 100 years old.
Yeah, 100 years old. If you look across sports, if you take everything involved, like obviously, football, they've been okay, in the whole of it. USC's obviously had some spectacular years and, won some championships and stuff. And you've got a couple others in there. I mean, they haven't been a great football conference, but they've been a absolutely spectacular athletic conference across the board. When you count, UCLA and men's basketball, you've got Stanford and like everything. And, that has accomplished so much. You've got, big time schools that are, brand name institutions. And it just dissolves over the course of a weekend because they can't get their TV right. Like, that's nuts. I mean, like, how can't they get their TV right?
Well,
I mean, on a 10,000 foot scale. Like, I get what they screwed up specifically as far as just believing this Apple TV thing would be, it like, I was just reading the Athletic article about it. It was like, just, they felt like they were
picking up right here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It is August 7th, joined by Dustin Dopirak. Jim Coyle with you as always, talking about realignment, man. I don't know. Do you even call it realignment anymore, Dustin, or just call it the wrecking ball?
Something like, I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I don't know. It's just, it's wild. I mean, it's just a complete mess. And it's crossed over to being kind of sad, at this point. Like, I think this is sort of rough just to see that, just to see a major conference dissolve, like, and the thing is too, I mean, like almost every other move has felt like kind of wow. Like, I thought UCLA was a little bit nuts, and like once you cross that Rubicon, then we were like, all bets were kind of off. Once you can take a Midwestern Eastern League and say, we're going to add 2 teams in Los Angeles, like, okay, whoa, all right. That means that we're just not going to care about geography at all anymore. That's not going to matter. Like, if like, for as much as it was getting weirder and weirder, and you throw like West Virginia into the Big 12, and you've had the Big East in various iterations being, like before it collapsed as a football conference, all the things you were trying with that, with Conference USA. I mean, there was weird, wild stuff, but it was mostly with schools that were on the margins. But like, when you start taking pillar institutions for the Pacific, the league that is based in the Pacific Coast, and decide you're going to add it to a league that's based in the Midwest and the East, in the Rust Belt, you're like, whoa, what? Okay, we're just not going to have any rules anymore. And so to take that the next step and then just totally dissolve Pacific Coast League is wild. And that's really what this is more than anything else. It's like, as much more than it's realignment, it's the absolute dissolution of dissolution of a of the major Pacific Coast League that's been out there for, again, 100 years, winning championships in so many different sports. That was arguably the strongest league when you were considering everything. It wasn't the strongest football league at all. Obviously, USC was a pillar institution, was a program that you could say is among, the real blue bloods. But other than that, was just a pretty good football league. But it had years when it was a spectacular basketball league. I mean, recently, it was making a comeback over the last couple of years, but there was a stretch there where they weren't any good. But UCLA and Arizona had been, just major, powers. But just everything else, man. I mean, Stanford's good at like everything. UCLA is good at like everything. USC is good at a bunch of stuff. You've got, I mean, they're a, top of the line baseball league, high level softball league, high level volleyball league, men's and women's. Just everything. You go down track, cross country. They've had great soccer teams. I mean, just like the more and more you like swimming, you look at everything. It's an incredible league, and they just fell apart because they couldn't get their football money right, their football TV money right, and it just went and like that fast. And that's obviously how much this thing is driving the train. Is the extent, how big of a TV media rights deal can you get, mostly driven by football. And if it's not big enough, people are like, well, we're going to go someplace else. And it was just, I mean, I can't believe it's just nuts to think that Oregon and Washington are taking half shares from the Big Ten, and that's better than they were going to get from the Pac-12. Like, that's nuts. I mean, it's just crazy. Like if you think about it, and again, like obviously it was partially this way already, because they were losing USC and UCLA, and they were losing, their biggest market. Now, obviously, the LA is still going to watch the Pac-12 because you're going to have, graduates there, like LA has to be similar to Chicago in the sense that, like, there's just people from every Pac-12 school are living there. But, all the same, like once you've lost that costs you a lot in terms of what you're able to produce from a TV contract. And like it seems like I was reading Stuart Mandel's Athletic article last night on it and just sort of what they were being pitched. And it was sort of like a Magic Bean situation. It was like, well, you have to imagine getting 5 million subscriptions out of this, but there's also a 3-year opt-out. And I guess the president said, like, look, if someone says like one of the best pitches you get is you have a 3-year opt-out out of this media rights deal, like that's not good. That's not a good place to be. And they were willing to take a half share. And that's wild. That's just wild that Oregon and Washington saying, you know what, whatever you're paying Northwestern and Rutgers, we'll take half that and we'll be better off. Like, what? Like,
yeah, and I'd say that there's the next question is, but that the next question is it's 1A through Z. There's not one next question. There's 1,000. Do they stop at 18 and just go on and go to 20? Okay, that's that question. Then if they go to 20, okay, well, who? Is it 2 more West Coast teams, or do they try to go East Coast and really solidify? Or the West Coast would give you a little bit more balance, of course.
Right.
Or do you go after someone like Virginia, Maryland, or Duke, North Carolina? But I know the ACC has their media rights deal that runs through 2036, and I don't know how you get out of that. But I was thinking if they can make enough money in the Big Ten, they can say, screw it, leave there, pay what it's going to cost me, and then take my more Big Ten money that we're getting.
No, I mean,
is it Cal or Stanford? Because Cal and Stanford, man, they're left holding the bag.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of Oregon. Oregon's, it seemed, was going to be happy in a smaller Pac-12 because the Pac-12 was going to have a berth in the college football playoffs. And all you had to do was win the Pac-12 without UCLA or USC.
Yeah.
Maybe Stanford Cal stays at that if that stays pat.
Sure.
Does the Pac-12 try to merge with the Mountain West, which is probably what they should do?
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be weird to see Stanford and Cal in the Mountain West. Like, yeah, Stanford and Cal are gonna be in the same league. And like, I'm trying to think of who like Wyoming. Like, that's gonna be so weird. Not to throw shade at Wyoming. I mean, Wyoming has just done some good things. They've produced. Top 5 quarterback in the NFL went to Wyoming. So it's not like you can just hate on those guys. But all the same, like the idea of Stanford and Cal being, with those institutions is nuts. It's crazy. I mean, again, like you could argue, like short list, Stanford's one of the best top to bottom athletic programs in the country. Like top to
without
bottom.
question. They probably have more national championships than any.
They're up
university.
there. I think it was them and UCLA. I mean, like UCLA has got a bunch too.
I think that's so. Yeah, what happens to the Conference of Champions? That's now the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, Bill Walton is going to spend all the year next year just talking about how everything sucks. Like I would love whoever's hanging out with him right now. Like I would love a story on what that's like. Where even with that's his kids or his wife or whatever. Like I would love whoever he's with and whatever level of writing talent they have to just document what he's saying about this. I would absolutely read that 100%. I look forward to the first person who calls him to get whatever he has to say. Now you have to be on the phone for like 3 hours to get 10 minutes worth of stuff you can quote, but all the same, a key has to be killing him. And, no, I mean, like it, and it is like that. And I think that gets to, for all of, as much as that's a joke or whatever, as much as that's, like Pac-12 after dark, listen to Bill Walton just go off, and say that teams that are 16 and 15 on March 3rd ought to be in the NCAA tournament. You're like, okay, Bill, whatever, just take it down a notch. You're way too far with this. But it does go to what I think bothers a lot of people about this, is it just sort of feels like we're really losing the soul of it, and that's just a feeling. Like, I get the money, it's money, and again, like, I can't understand how you could screw this up that bad, and that's where this starts. Like, for whatever you want to say about college football and or what should be done or what shouldn't be done, or who should go where, like, if you can't, if as a Pac-12 commissioner you find yourself selling magic beans, well, you're in trouble. Like that, you shouldn't be in that position. You have a really good product to sell, even without UCLA and USC. And so if you're in a position where you're trying to sell magic beans to your members, like, it's tough to feel that bad, I guess, about that for them in particular. But no, I mean, it feels like there was a sense of like, there's something about identity with conference that it's like, okay, like this.
Yes, I agree, Dustin.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back.
Yep.
Brief interlude there. No, I think and so people are looking at this and like, look at what these leagues have accomplished and everything, and like, you just had a sense of a center of where everything was, and it feels like that's being lost. And it's like you're going to add a whole bunch of complications, just ridiculous travel, teams that are in your league that you can't possibly, if you're a kid, it's not like you can ever, you're going to Indiana or whatever, like, you're not taking a road trip to Oregon unless you've got crazy parents' money, so it's just
I'm not going to Oregon. After
right,
having to go there a couple of years ago for the NCAA tournament, that was the most expensive trip, and I'm like, screw that.
Yeah, that was brutal. I mean, it obviously wasn't my money, so that was nice. But yeah, just going to Portland for the tournament, that's a chunk out of your newspaper budget, that's for sure. So yeah, no, I think it's going to be weird, and and again, obviously money's driving the train, but it's going to be weird across sports. It's going to be strange. I think a lot of people are talking about like, well, can't they do something about can't the rest of the sports be regionalized? And they probably can, but like, that's gonna take some doing to get schools that just broke up over a football money deal to come back together for the rest of the sports. That in itself that's what you're dealing with there, is the feeling of either distrust or just betrayal, or well, you screwed this up, or how can I trust the league office when you can't get this right? Why would I want to be with you for the rest of this? Like, it's just getting people involved. Like, that probably is what should happen on a practical scale, but that doesn't mean it's going to, or there's any way to make it work just from a getting the people back in a room to hammer it out perspective, or be okay with, I just acquired these properties that have all these sports, I'm going to be willing for them to go away on other sports. Like, the Big Ten is not going to be like, well, yeah, I want UCLA and USC and Oregon and Washington to be in my baseball league too, like, because we'll be better. Like, that seems cool. We'll actually send some people to Omaha, on a more regular basis than they have lately. Not, they've started doing that from time to time, but they have teams that are legit contenders to do stuff like that. They're not going to be like, yeah, go play in your own league and go do something else. They're like, no, let's try to do this. Let's get more teams in the volleyball Final Four. The Big Ten's not going to let them ride. But it's I think just rough for everybody just to see, again, like, Bill Walton and Pac-12, people out there did have, that kind of pride in that league, and now it's just gone. And so it's just like, all right, man, that's rough. That's rough for college sports. It is.
Does this help or hurt the teams in football like Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, Maryland, even Minnesota to a degree? I don't know. There's just more teams that are better than all four of the teams that have been added. Yeah. Better football programs than those teams I just mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, no. I mean, it hurts. It helps in the level they're going to get more money. that there's going to be more money production out of this, like whatever they're getting now, they're going to have another media rights deal and who knows how many years, and they're going to get paid better, like ultimately there's going to be more cash coming to these schools. And the big thing is they got to be just happy that they are in a place that's not breaking up, like that's the big thing is like your athletic department will continue to be well-funded and you don't have to figure out where you have to go, like that's just the big thing is that level of security, they got to be happy with where they are there. And, now are they going to be in better shape football wise? No, those are harder games on the board. If you were feeling excited about the fact that, if you're Indiana, oh man, we don't have to play Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan every year. All right. Well, like one of those games, like whoever you're not playing, you're looking at like Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, like you're going to end up with one of those on the schedule somehow, some way, and like, so probably your total schedule isn't a lot worse. Maybe you've got a better shot. Maybe, you have some years where, the scheduling gods help you out. Maybe you have some years where it's worse. Finishing higher in the standings is going to be really tough. Who knows what the standings are even going to be? Who knows what even divisions, they come up with. Even if they come up with like 3-4 divisions, you're probably not going to be one that gives you a clean, scale to the top. I mean, probably whatever they assemble, even if they're smaller leagues, probably aren't going to probably going to be better divisions than the Big Ten West is. Like I don't think it gets a lot better for you. But again, the most important thing that you have, if you're those schools, like you just wake up every day thanking God you're not. Wake up every day thanking God you're not Stanford and Cal, or Oregon State and Washington State.
Or UConn.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, UConn got left a long time ago and they're still paying the price. Not that they had a great football program, but they were one of the few in the Big East that probably, they just got left kind of stranded. That's not a great comparison, I guess, but
I don't even know what UConn does. Just play basketball, UConn. Just embrace it and be Georgetown and Villanova. That's who you are.
We've got just a couple minutes before we have to take a break, but I think the schedules should be made yearly, every stinking year, because they have shown that they can do that. They just did it with UCLA and USC, and they're going to have to do it all again. They're going to have to blow that one up and redo it, and they can do it. I think that they should do it every year immediately after the season ends, make the schedule based on records of the previous season to keep some kind of balance, to never, ever have a Big Ten East again with Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State. You cannot have a juggernaut now with the conference's size. And going away from divisions? Well, what do you do? Do you go back to for football? Do you go to 4? If you go to 20 teams, you can go to 4 or 5 team little pods. Yeah. And you could kind of tweak that easily if you needed to.
Sure. I mean, they got to change it up again because, I mean, it used to be like, the reason they used to do that, the reason they had divisions in the first place was the last money-making scheme, which was conference championships. I mean, like, the non-existence of conference championships is in our lifetimes. I mean, remember, it was 92 was the first one, I think, was SEC when they went to an East and West with Florida and Alabama, and that kind of changed everything. And suddenly it's like, whoa, this is a big money maker. And conferences figured out like we can have this central event every year and a central place to have it, and then we can get money. And the rule was, and I don't even know who makes the rules, but the rule was you had to have 2 6-team divisions to have a championship. And so that was a thing, and that was a driving reason for expansion, especially for the ACC. I mean, that's a big reason why the ACC raided the Big East, was so they could have enough schools for a title game, and so that was such a big thing. And so we were just living on that. template basically, and that's why they had to go get these schools and go to these divisions, and that's why they were doing scheduling the way they were doing it. Was why again, just why you had these divisions, and the whole point was, and go ahead.
Let's pick this up on the other side. I knew I shouldn't have. That was too good of a question to ask. Well, no, I knew that was too good of a question. I knew I should have picked that up on the other side, and we'll do that. Yeah, we'll be back with more.
Cool.
More Indiana Sports Speed Radio right after this. I hate producing.
I'll bet. Cannot be fun.
No. How are you, man? How was your weekend?
Good. What all did I do? A lot of bouncing around random stuff. We did. Went to a concert on Friday night. A friend of mine's like just big into country stuff, and I I trust his judgment. So I went to go see this band that I'd never heard of before. They were a blast. Called Mike and the Moon Pies. They were just like this honky tonk country show. It was a ball. I never heard of them before. Never heard one single song.
Where was this?
If you know where Hi-Fi is in Fountain Square, it's called the Hi-Fi Annex, and so they've got like an indoor venue and an outdoor venue. So like kind of on the other side of the building, they have like a parking lot that they just turned into, they throw up a stage and some, vendor, truck, whatever's, just basically for beers and stuff. And, just kind of hang out in the parking lot and watch the show. It was a good time. Saturday we did house stuff, kind of reassembled our patio. And then, yesterday we did trivia night. Good times. Good weekend. Solid, not going much of anywhere stuff, but it was good.
Did you make it to Home Depot?
Did not make it to Home Depot.
There was not time.
There was not time. No. So didn't do Bed Bath & Beyond either. No.
Oh, none of my other guys would have gotten that.
Yeah. Oh no, I got that one cold. Yeah. We're gonna go to Home Depot. Might make it to Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
I'm not sure if we'll have enough time.
I'll do one. He'll do one.
What's Notre Dame going to do now?
No idea. I mean, the pressure keeps coming on. I think. Let's talk about that after the break. I've got thoughts on that.
You've got Notre Dame, Florida State, Cal, Stanford,
Arizona State, and Washington State.
Well, they're gone.
Well, Arizona's a Big 12. Washington State and Oregon State, who are just in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who wants them. I guess the Big 12 will just take, or the Mountain West will just take them. I think. And Oregon State and Washington State were like, this is dumb, but we kind of have to do this.
Yeah. But Stanford, there's no way. They're going to what?
Stanford and Cal is just going to be annoyed with whatever happens to them. They're just going to be like, man.
Don't they have to, doesn't the Mountain West have to join the Pac-12 to get the automatic berth?
I mean, maybe. I guess can the remaining schools of the Pac-12 take on the Mountain West and just decide they're a playoff league?
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Monday, August 7th. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star as well. And guess what? We're talking about college athletics realignment because it has been a crazy couple of days as the Big Ten continues to grow. The Pac-12 is almost no more. They are now the Pac-4. We were just talking in the break. I don't know what they do. I think that they've got to beg the Mountain West to come, which is funny because San Diego State was trying to join the Pac-12, and George Klavikoff, their commissioner, wouldn't go, oh, we're going to do our TV stuff first. Buddy, you should have done the other one first because now they're screwed. I don't know how much better off they would have been. I don't know how much better off they would have been. It just comes down to what was the number you were going to be able to tell your schools. Was San Diego State going to really move the needle on that? I mean, probably not. Might have helped. San Diego's all it helped them with. That's it.
Yeah, it would have got you in the better market. I mean, that probably gets your number up a little bit higher. But and San Diego State's been a good football program. It's been a good basketball program. It's like Tony Gwynn coached there. I mean, like, obviously you've got some things that you can point to as San Diego State as a legitimate program. So I'm not trying to diss them in any way, shape, or form. But, how much do they move the needle on a TV rights deal? I don't know. And that's just really what it comes down to. But yeah, I have no idea what the remaining schools do. I don't know. I mean, like, we were just talking on the break, like, does the Mountain West take on those schools and become the Pac-12? What kind of, if you're that school, what Pac-12 infrastructure do you want? Because you probably have to fire the commissioner, right? I mean, like, you can't, like,
George Klavakoff should probably never get a job again. The only person who did a worse job than George Klavakoff was it Larry Scott?
Larry Scott, yeah. I mean, I think Larry Scott.
He basically destroyed the Pac-12.
At the end of the day, you can really trace this back to Larry Scott, yeah. No, so I don't know what they do. I don't know what you do with what's left of Pacific Coast power in the sport, and like Western side power in the sport. So I mean, like, I think. I think that's kind of their only option. Like, unless, the stand, I don't think the Big Ten is throwing a lifeboat to Stanford and Cal. I guess you'd understand it, because it's just like, okay, like, at least seems like it's sort of like-minded institutions on some level. And it's going to be weird to see, against Stanford and Cal with the Mountain West, that just seems odd to me. That's an odd fit, but they got to go somewhere. And they got to play for somebody, and they're too good of properties, I think, just from a success standpoint, from an institution standpoint, to not go somewhere. So I don't know. I mean, that's just, they're too good to just be a lot, let on that East Bay Island to just sit there.
Well, then you look at the other East Coast, like I said, the ACC, who I don't know what it would take for them to get out of their media rights deal, but teams schools like Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, Florida State, who is making all kinds of noise, which cracks me up. Florida State wants a bigger piece of the pie, ACC pie, and I cannot understand why, because they do not have a recognition bigger than Duke does in basketball, than North Carolina does in basketball. Their football team does not resonate higher than those basketball schools do, and their basketball team doesn't. So what in the hell? I don't know what they're expecting. They just see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, they still want to believe they are who they were, 20 years ago. And it's just bizarre to think that's 20 years already. But, I mean, remember, when they brought Miami in, when they raided the Big East, I mean, it was supposed to be Florida State, Miami's league. That was supposed to be the deal, was that, all right, like, this is how you put Florida State and Miami in a position to, be gunned for a national championship every year. And to going back to the conference championship discussion, it was like, you're going to have a Florida State, Miami rematch, in December. That's what your sales pitch is as to what the ACC title is going to be. And that has not been the case, at all. I mean, I don't think they played. I don't think they played one time. And I think that was what everybody thought it was going to be at that point, because, I mean, you were coming off, they got Miami right after, Miami was at the top of the world. I think they move over in like 2004, 2005. And you remember, like, Florida State had won the title with Peter Warwick in 99. And, Miami had won in 01 with those dudes, with like the greatest semblance of college football talent ever. And you were like, well, it's just gonna be Florida State, Miami every year. And we had a sense that those brands were going to be it, that was going to be the ACC sales pitch. So it's going to be like kind of the tentpole institutions that were holding everybody else up. That has not been the case. And if you're Florida State, you're sort of like grasping at some reason to feel that relevant again. I mean, they've obviously had some good years in between. Certainly they had the, 2013 team with Jameis Winston win a national championship. So it's not like they've been they've been just like consistently trash or anything, but, they've been, you look at the last 20 years and they're just okay. Again, with the exception of the Winston years, they're for the most part just okay. As far as how they've been, they had that Jimbo period, but that's about it. So,
and he left for us because they weren't putting apparently the money into the program.
Yeah, and
then
A&M was. I mean, and again, just it's crazy. Like,
and that was their main program.
Sure, 20 years ago, if you think, oh yeah, I'm going to leave Florida State for Texas A&M, like that's insane. Like you wouldn't even think about that. But A&M was throwing just crazy money at him, and then crazy money at everything else. And, going into the SEC, and it was just like, okay, well, this is a place to go. So, I mean, I could see if you're Florida State trying to rattle the chain a little bit and, try to get something else. I don't know if it's going to work out for them. I mean, could the Big Ten take them? I guess, I could see that making a difference. I could see that opening some more inroads into recruiting Florida. Not that you don't already have plenty as is. Obviously, Indiana's got a lot of talent out of Florida. But I could see a reason to do that. That it'd be worth checking out. I mean, once they've taken on Oregon and Washington, you're like, the Big Ten can try whatever it wants, and the SEC certainly is in a position where, like, do we want? I mean, I think the SEC is wondering what it wants to do.
Exactly. I don't know if they know what they want to do because
they're like, and I think part of what they're asking is, do we want this?
Do they need it?
Do we need this?
Because they're leading. They're the best football conference there is at the moment.
Yeah.
If they can maintain that, they don't really need it.
Yeah, and they add on Texas and Oklahoma, and they're like, so do we need Florida State? Like they're probably looking at the Big Ten and like, and there's almost part of it is, do they know something we don't know? Like, I get it. Like, good for them. They got these programs, but like, I guess that's cool. But do we need this stuff?
Florida would not want Florida State in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
I mean, I guarantee you Texas A&M didn't want Texas in.
No, I'm sure they're not happy about it. And they definitely wanted to stick it to Texas for sure. And so they're not super happy about Texas and Oklahoma because they definitely feel like, oh, great. We're in trouble out here. So, yeah, I don't think they're looking around and saying, like, let's get North Carolina or let's get, like, they're like, Did
the Big Ten add Stanford or add Oregon and Washington mainly because of UCLA and USC?
Sure, but it was also because they could. They got them for cheap. Like, that's part of it. Is like they were like, well, we'll do it for a half share. You'll do it for a half share.
But that's only for how long?
I don't know. I don't know how many years. But it's just like, I mean, it's picking them up at a discount price. I think that's a big piece of it, is saying like, okay, we can do this. They went to Fox and whatever and said, how much, can we do? And they were like, well, we can do a half share. And if you're like, if you can pick up Oregon's brand and Washington's brand at a half share, shoot, like how do you not? I mean, so it gives you, more travel partners out west. And so, they're in a position where you're not, you can find ways to minimize the travel out there. And especially, again, whatever you're going to do, the other sports are really the toughest thing when it comes to travel anyway, because you're talking about, how many West Coast trips is Indiana going to make in a year? One, maybe.
In football?
Football, maybe one.
I think that they'll set it up to where you just have one trip there, and you'll have somebody come in, at least one come in. Basketball is going to be difficult.
Yeah. Well, it's going to have to be travel partners. I mean, you're going to have to go out there and stay there. You're not doing two of those. So when it's UCLA and USC, you're not doing two trips to LA. You're doing one trip to LA, and you're staying there.
And the same for Portland and Oregon. Portland and Washington, rather.
Yeah, you're going out there and you're staying there. And you're going out there for a Thursday, Saturday, or for a Friday, Sunday, or whatever it is. You are not coming back until you've played them both. It's going to be long. It's going to be weird. And you're going to come back on Monday and you're not going to know what time it is, and so, they'll find ways of making it work. Like, again, they can go do Thursday, Saturday, and, fly back Sunday, have that day to kind of recover, go back to class on Monday. So they'll obviously, but it's like, you can do one more of those. And, they can stay out west as much as they can, and play each other every year and make sure that they're not, they're at least taking advantage of that part. They'll at least kind of function like a division. Like, you'll make sure that you're out west, you'll play all of those. If you're UCLA, you're playing UCLA, you're playing Oregon, you're playing Washington every year. just to minimize the travel somewhat. Not that that's not a hike, like just going from LA to Seattle is not nothing, in and of itself, just going all the way up the coast. But they'll try to make that as manageable as possible, just keeping those programs out there as much as they can. So, I think that helps, but obviously I think it was just a big piece was just getting the brands at a cheap price. Again, it's better football programs, like Oregon as a brand is a big deal, with just the association with Nike, like that's a thing, man. They're visible. They're very, very visible. And so, that adds to what you can get money wise. You get the two biggest brands I think in the Pacific Northwest. So that locks you up there. I mean, and again, you're paying a half share. I think they're in good shape, and they'll it makes it more manageable travel wise, and you get name brands, cheap price. You can't pass it up if you're the Big Ten.
No, and then in basketball, with 18 teams, or even if they go to 20, it doesn't really matter. At that point, if they went to 20, it would be real easy. You could have one protected rival where you play a home and home, and you play everybody else once.
Right. Exactly.
And the same with 18. At 18, if you have three, do you have three home and homes and the rest single games? Is that how? I mean,
right
now it's like it's a percentage. There's what's like about six or maybe five teams that they play a home and home with, and then you split the 4 away, 4 home, whatever.
You could do a bunch of stuff. And you could go at this a whole bunch of different ways. It's going to be weird either way. Like it's not going to be normal. You're certainly not. You certainly, obviously you can't do a double round robin. But you do what you can. You see what you can do to make it work. And, the one thing that might be tough is, I guess you can do, there's probably going to be a rivalry that takes a hit, like, especially there's a couple schools, like obviously Michigan, Ohio State in particular, like what, if you're Michigan, what rivalry do you protect? Is it Michigan State? Is it Ohio
in basketball?
State? In basketball, I think it's Michigan State in basketball.
You could probably, I think you could still probably have 3 still right now at 18. You can have at least 2.
Yeah. You could. Yeah. And it just all depends on what you want to do. It all depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. But, again, obviously it's just, obviously the thing is that like, just take on the football name brands and figure everything else out. And if it's imperfect, fine, whatever. Sure. We're still making $1 bajillion.
That they will. Let's see. Russell says, I'm not sure he was talking about. I missed that, but
they don't play Big Ten style. Well, Big Ten style will change. The Big Ten style will change.
I think that there's not going to be any kind of a conference style anymore. I don't think that it was going to be anyway.
No.
Look at the types of players. Just Indiana's recruiting. That's not your grandfather's Big Ten. That's not your father's Big Ten type of athlete. And I see that. I think that's going to get different across the board. Michigan State, I consider them a normal. They're as decent as anybody. Purdue is, Purdue plays their own style, and now Purdue. I don't know that they can keep doing that.
We're talking about basketball, right?
Yes. They're going to have to make some changes because they have just there's a reason that they have just struggled nationally. And I mean struggled. This has gone on for 100 years. And 100 years they've made 2 Final Fours. In the last 3 years they've been beaten by an average 14 seed. And they've had good basketball teams. So they're going to have to change, but basketball is going to be fun to watch, man.
That was true regardless of conference realignment. No, I mean, I think I think it was I think it was Dana O'Neill I saw did a piece with Painter. I mean, when I covered, yes, I agree, Ross, that Oregon court does give me a headache too.
Me too.
But no, I think so. Like, I mean, when I was covering Purdue for the Athletic, that was the year they went to the Elite Eight with Carson Edwards, and so like I talked to just Painter about how he kind of reinvented himself a little bit from previous iterations. So like what he was really thinking at that point was, all right, instead of thinking, because he was like, you know what, when we won the first time after, the Baby Boilers and Robbie Hummel and everything, I was like, okay, we're in really good shape, and I'm going to go get the best ranked guys I can get. Like he wasn't, not that he was thinking about ranks, but just like who were the players that everybody wanted in the state, and feel like he had to go get them because Indiana was down, at that point. I mean, they were starting to come up with Crean and everything, but like, right around when they started winning with Hummel, when they got Hummel and Jawan Johnson and those guys in, was right around the Samson stuff. So like, I mean, Purdue got to roll out there, and he was like, all right, like I'm young, I'm winning, I can go get, the best players in the state. And he got the Johnson boys, and they didn't play very well, on a whole. Tyrone and Ronnie, they were just okay at best. They were, middle of the pack Big Ten team, weren't making the tournament. And I was like, all right, I got to reconsider this. So he started thinking, all right, well, I got to get skill. And so he was like, all right, like I'm going to get guys who can dribble, pass, and shoot, and I'm going to get a big guy. Like that's going to be my way of looking at it, is like, I'm going to try to go get the best shooter in the Midwest every year. I'm going to get one guy who's a real big time shooter in every class, and that's how he built it. And that's how they built the team in 2019. And they had just really good complementary parts, but it's just, he looked at it as like, okay, like I'm not going to try to go get the best athlete. I'm going to go get the best basketball player. And then what he started to realize now is he's low on athletes. And that's an issue, is he's got guys who can dribble, pass, and shoot. But he's having a hard time with defenders who can keep, really quick point guards in front of him. And it's a problem. And it's a bigger problem because he has this, colossus in the middle, who's not going to be able to defend a guy like that coming downhill on the pick and roll. So you're going to see this now. You're going to see a rebalance of how he's doing it. And like, I think talking to Painter's fun because he's honest that way. Like he'll get into the weeds with you about what he's thinking and why he's thinking it, and where it comes from and everything like that. And you get to have a real conversation with somebody and have them explain to you why they do what they do. And, be honest and real about it, and not try to shroud it and, sort of weird talk so you're not committing to anything. Like he explains, like, this was my idea, this was my process, this is where I came up with it. This is why I thought that, and now this is why I'm changing again. And so that's a fun thing to have with Painter. So yes, Purdue's going to change, and everybody's going to change. I mean, I think there is a general sense that, like, all right, like you had this incredible collection of talent that came through the Big Ten. And as a whole for a league, you don't have a lot to show for it, over the last couple of years. I mean, if you look at not a lot collectively, where you have, I mean, how many All-Americans over the last 3 years, and how, including multi-time All-Americans. And, you don't have a national champion, and you have maybe one Final Four team. And so it's like,
if you've got a few more minutes, so we got to take a break. I'd love to talk about what this is going to do to Big Ten basketball.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
I think that's going to be fun as well. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Fortunate to have Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star with me. Back with more right after this. Oh, I hate it. I have forgotten to do this all day. Let's see. There we go. Comments. Man, but Indiana will be going to play in Pauley Pavilion, baby.
I'll take that, man. That's cool. I'll take that. I'm not going, obviously, but
Well, maybe you have to fill in sometime.
Perhaps.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the same thing. Why would you not go out there and play a weekend series?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
gee
you have
whiz.
to. Mm. No, it's a lot. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you're not going to see the effect of it. Like, it's a question of whether you'll see the effect in the product, number one, if you're going to see players looking like they're tired and exhausted and sick of traveling, you saw it, you did see it in IU when they played St. Mary's. Now part of that I think was just total wear and tear from the previous week, because I mean they had to go all the way to Saturday in the Big Ten and then do a play-in game and then travel out to Portland and get there at God knows what hour of the morning and whatever. But I mean, people like kids are going to complain about it because it's just like, man, like I mean, how it's what it's like to go out west. Like it takes it out of you, like it really does. Like
when
you
that
have,
far, absolutely.
yeah, when you're on the other side of the coast, you're just like, man, like this.
They should eliminate there should be no play-in games, teams being sent out there.
Yeah, I hope they're not doing that anymore. That should have been a rule. Yeah,
just eliminate it and put.
Yeah, you can't
go to the. All you can do is put two more 16 seeds out there, and that's just dumb. That's an easy rectifiable thing.
Sure, it was. It was stupid, and it was like one of those things where did no one think about this? Does no one have a map? Like it's just like you can't. You couldn't. I mean, it was crazy for us. I mean, like, and like that's not the whole deal. Obviously, it's more important for the kids and everything like that than it is for us. But it's just like, how fast we had to book a freaking Pacific Coast flight, like from Dayton. No, we didn't go from Dayton. We drove back to Indiana and we flew from there. But still, it was just like, all right, like we got to drive back.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, August 7th. Jim Coyle with you as always, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down in Anna Maria Island, Florida. For all of you traveling down on the along through Florida or our Florida viewers on YouTube, make sure you stop in. It is one of the best restaurants in Southwest Florida. There on the West Coast, on just outside of Bradenton. Dustin Dopirak from Indy Star with me, and we are, of course, talking about the craziness of college realignment. I don't even know if they even call it realignment anymore. It's not realignment. It's just completely blown up.
Yeah.
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 And now we've been talking a lot about football because football is the engine that has driven this train, and that it will drive this train because of the money. But basketball is a huge part of it, and the Big Ten, they add some quality basketball programs here. UCLA is obviously they're doing great with, and now boy, they're going to be great. They've got a great coach. You bring a great coach into the league with Mick Cronin. USC was set to come in burning the thing up. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Bronny James. Sure. Oregon has done well. Washington is not exactly terrible. So you're bringing in 4 solid basketball programs, in addition to the fact now you're going to have an Indiana playing UCLA in Pauley Pavilion at some point, which is cool in another face of it.
Yeah, no, it's good for basketball. Obviously, UCLA is certainly the brand name that comes in. But again, USC is recruiting really well. I mean, they not only brought in Bronny in this class, but Isaiah Collier, who's going to be a heck of a player. And I think that they're in a good place generally. Evan Mobley, I think, being what he's becoming, in the NBA, I think is certainly helping to drive a little bit of a renaissance for USC and getting them back to being a brand name, and NIL helps. NIL helps, USC, I would think. Just, again, being in LA, being being in a place where your name and image and likeness can really help things. Obviously, that stuff doesn't drive the train as much as we thought it would, because of the collectives and everything like that. The calculation is different, but it still helps. I think for players who imagine themselves to be, just big name brands, there's no place that's better to be a big name brand in college sports in Los Angeles. So That's going to be cool. Those two programs are going to be cool. Oregon's been successful lately. Washington's had some success lately. There's been up and down. They certainly had some years where they haven't been good at all, but they've had good when they've been solid. So you add some teams that are going to, just take up some more NCAA tournament spots. There's going to be years where there have been years where all four of those teams have made it. And so, you have a chance of that being the case, that those can be pretty good programs. And so, yeah, Pete Clausen says the 10-11 Eastern tip-offs will be brutal. Yeah, I mean,
for those of us that complain about the 9 o'clock ones, buddy, wait, it's going to get worse.
I do think there will be consideration because again, they're going to schedule this, knowing that's what they're doing, that they're sending you out west and making you play out west and everything like that. How that's going to go. And so there's going to be consideration for the East Coast programs that have to go out there, or the Eastern time zone programs that have to go out there at least. I don't know. I think they'll try to limit, have them play at 6 or have them play at 7 or whatever. Will UCLA have to play in Assembly Hall, or will be moved to Indy for UCLA convenience?
It'll be an Assembly Hall. It'll be the greatness of having UCLA Indiana in Assembly Hall, just like it's going to be in Pauley Pavilion, not at the Staples Center.
I don't see it.
It's not. There's no more convenience of being in Indianapolis. Hell, it's a 45-minute drive down here from the airport.
Exactly. I think I'm not going to say that there will be zero things that happen in Indianapolis because of convenience. I'm not going to say
because there's another thing you're right, Dustin. They could do, it's hard to put those kind of things together like when they have the sports spectaculars with all the multiple teams. But that's something that now that you actually kind of gave me this idea, I can see them doing this at maybe not at Lucas Oil, but at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, where you bring in UCLA and USC or Washington and Oregon, and they play Purdue and Indiana in a back-to-back game, and that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, that would be a mess. No, I mean, there might be some creative things that happen, but I definitely, the first time around, the first back and forth between UCLA and Indiana, I would be shocked if they didn't play it at home arenas because of what the home arenas are. I mean, like, maybe down the train someplace, down the line someplace, they could do something like that, like maybe. But like, part of the deal here, like part of the sell here, is that you get to make something like that happen. That you put UCLA in Assembly Hall and you put Indiana in Pauley Pavilion. Like, you need them images. Like, that's something to sell. As far as like for the league and what makes it cool that you're, having this Midwest West League as you're bringing these brands together. Like, those are storied halls of basketball. Like, you have to play those games there. I could see trying to be creative down the line, making it a little bit easier depending on how this thing goes. But first time through the order, it's going to be Pauley and it's going to be Assembly Hall at the very least. And again, we'll see the cumulative effect of travel money, and all those kinds of things. We'll see if there are creative ways that they try to, kind of cut down small things. But I don't see, like, hey man, I work in Gamebridge all the time. I don't want to, I'm not, talking any mess on Gamebridge. It's a cool place to watch a game. By NBA standards, it's fine. It's fine to really good, and it's got more character than most places, honestly. But Assembly Hall.
But I think if you did an IU, UCLA, Purdue, USC, you'd almost have to do Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, you probably would if you did.
I don't know though, because UCLA and USC is not going to travel that well, I don't think.
Yeah, no, not particularly. And you would get in, it would be a big deal playing it up in Indy. But yeah, like, just goes past that one. Not wrong. That's a thing for sure. But no, I think, I do think a big piece of this is going to want to play in these arenas. And if you're UCLA and I think you want to play at Purdue too. Mackey's something, dude. Like for whatever anybody wants to say at IU about Purdue, man, a game in Mackey is an experience. I mean,
man, every player I talk to, IU player, they say it's for them, it's the loudest place that they have played in.
You can make complaints.
They don't think about Assembly Hall because they're used to it, number one, and it doesn't affect them in that same way. But for them, and there are a lot of people that will say that Mackey is louder than Assembly Hall. And now that's probably true at the moment because Purdue has just had a little bit better run.
Yeah,
and
I
think IU really needs to reconfigure their students.
Yeah, I agree. They do. Mackey is consistently from November 5th to March 9th or whatever it is that your last regular season game is. Like, if you take the average, Mackey's louder, and it's not close. Like, at its peak, Assembly Hall probably gets louder. But Mackey is consistently loud all the time. They're definitely louder on November 12th when they're playing Northern Illinois by a long shot. Not close as far as that's concerned. And the way it's built, like it just stays there. Like obviously Assembly Hall is just a different configuration and there's nothing wrong with it. And I like it. I think it's cool. Like that it's different. It's the balconies and everything like that.
Let's be honest. It sucks. It sucks
when you're up there.
It's not conducive. Cool. It's not
when
conducive.
You're sitting at press row and you're looking up, it looks cool. I don't know if it's less cool when you're up in the balcony.
Buddy, it wasn't that long when my press row was up there.
That's fair.
Because there are 4 rows of press that have to sit up there.
I was in a gilded position the entire time I was covering IU, so I was fortunate. I was either in the corner and I was on main press row. But no, I think, and I love Assembly Hall, so this is not, I'm not at all dissing it. I'm just saying Mackey, the way it's built, it's just a concrete circle and it's just coming down in your head, like all the time. And again, like they don't take a game off. Like where, when IU is playing, not Northern Illinois, but like Jackson State on November 21st, like it ain't exactly the most jumping place in there.
And is it the structure? Is it just having the complete round because it's just perfectly complete round? And it's a little closer because Illinois is like that, but theirs is not. But that's because they have freaking lazy boys down around the court. You can't be expecting people to be loud if you're sitting in a lazy boy.
No, you can't. You're just supposed to fall asleep in that case. Yeah.
IU has to reconfigure their students.
Yeah, they got to bring them closer. They got to bring them all closer. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. It's not an easy thing to figure out, because you do have a lot of people spending a lot of money to be close. That want to spend a lot of money and you need to take their money because you need it to do stuff and build stuff. But, you have to do something with the students to maximize that for sure.
No, Don Fisher absolutely does not sit up in the balcony. He was down there. He's down there in Dustin Dopirak land, baby.
Exactly. No, they would never make Don do that. Oh my God. Don would bust somebody up for that.
As he should. Should.
You put Don in the balcony, Don would bust somebody up for that. That would just be, he'd break your knees with his golf clubs.
Oh, I promise you.
And Don would whoop you. Don't get it twisted. If you think you can take Don, you can't take Don. I promise.
Nope. No Don, I was 2 years ago. I competed in the softball team. Coach Shonda you were out there? I couldn't remember.
Oh yeah, no. Don was the best fielder, man.
Don got second. I had hurt my neck then, so I couldn't do much. But Don got second, and he was competing. Let me tell you, Don wanted to win.
Don can get down and field. Don can just you can't beat Don. Don't think you can. Don't think he's in the 70s. You can take him. You can't. Yeah.
Not a lot going on right now with the Pacers. I know your latest piece on Obi Toppin and his excitement and joining the team, which again, that is a great pickup for them. I know that this is not LeBron James or this is not Kevin Durant, but this is a great pickup.
Yeah, no, I mean, for trading away 2 second-round picks and you're only paying for what, 6.8 million this year. It works. I mean, it fits on a lot of levels. He's just great in transition. Like Tyrese Halliburton wants to move all the time, and so like his joke on Twitter was like he's gonna say like just screw it, I'm just gonna throw it up to Obi. He's up there somewhere, and he can get up. I mean, like that's what you've seen so far. I mean, even just when we checked him up at Dizzy Runs up in Noblesville with Kyle Geisting up there, I mean, he's throwing stuff off the backboard to himself. And again, like it's a pro-am, so like defense is not exactly a thing that's being played from time to time. It was better than the All-Star game, but the guy can seriously get up, and so like he's just going to run back and forth, and he's going to throw lobs to him, and he's going to be able to throw a bunch of this stuff down. He can hit threes. He's got the body to rebound, I think, better than he has. And so it's just like that's really what they needed. They just needed to address power forward, and you just have a bridge to Jarris Walker, to not put Walker in a position where he's got to start right away and score, right away. I mean, I think because I think Jarris can defend at an NBA level right now, but offensively he's still got a ways to go. He's still got a ways to go as a shooter. He's still got to get a full sense of what he's capable of as an offensive player. And so having Obi there for at least a year really, really helps. And they just needed power forward help so much. And, Obi's in a situation where he's been stuck behind Julius Randle for a couple of years. He's aching to play. And so, right out of the gate, I mean, he'll probably start this year, I would think. And again, you could bring Walker off the bench and you're in good shape at power forward. And you still have Jordan Nora in there to get him some minutes because he's still, I think, really a lot better than people realize. So they're in a lot better shape at that position than they were. And so Obi's really happy to be there. It brings him back to this part. He's only a couple hours away from Dayton. He loves Dayton. I think that's nice for him. Obviously he's leaving New York. He's a New York native, and so it's tough to leave the Knicks. But I think that sort of ship sailed for him. And I think this is, renewal. I mean, I think he's definitely one of those guys that got the tough end of what life's like in the New York media market. And you've seen, I think, a lot of people be successful when they've left. I mean, I know just growing up rooting for the Pirates, definitely in that 2012 to 2015 range. You had a lot. The Pirates were able to live on a lot of guys who just couldn't make it in New York. AJ Burnett being, one classic example, Ivan Nova being another of guys that just weren't very successful with the Yankees who came to the Pirates and were really successful. Could be the same way for Moby Toppin. It's just get away from just that, media market that just grabs at you and, the back page stuff and everything, and just get away from the pressure. And all of a sudden you can be a different guy. And I think Obi can be that kind of guy.
He was fun to watch in college, and obviously he is moving his skills up because he has played well for not so good a team. So we'll see what he does. And one more quick question, I wish I would have asked this in regards to Big Ten football, but I can see them alternating the Big Ten football championship between Lucas Oil Stadium and the Rose Bowl.
Could happen. I mean, because it could happen. It could certainly happen. And it definitely opens up a lot of possibilities for where you can play that thing. Like I would think that, obviously you're talking, certainly a different commissioner, but I mean, Jim Delaney's deal was always, I'm going to answer that question about Jarris. Jim Delaney's deal was he believed you had to activate. That was his term, was activate these programs when you add them. And so you've got to take something out there, a media day or, they took the conference tournaments out to DC and New York and everything. That you make those regions feel like they're a part of the league, and you do something to sort of, again, just make them feel like it's their home, and send them an event. And so I would not be surprised if you see something like that to add the Rose Bowl or someplace else in LA, SoFi maybe, and involve them somehow. So nothing would shock me in terms of what they would want to do out there, just to, I'm sure they're going to get in position to try to play someplace, Coliseum, like wherever you can do it, to involve LA. You wouldn't want, I think, the Pacific Northwest involved there, but But I think they would try to do something that gets within the first 3 years, you're going to see a major event out west. And I don't know whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's basketball. They are going to get some type of major Big Ten championship in out west to, prove they can do it, prove they care about the West. They'll do something. Now, I don't know what it'll be.
They've got to pull the fans and get the fans engaged.
They got to make them feel like they're part of the Big Ten.
Because that time difference is huge.
It is huge. It's gigantic. I mean, it's going to be a problem for the Big Ten basketball tournament, man. That is going to be an issue. Like, don't get it twisted. That is going to be it. Like, out of the clearly identifiable, this is going to be a problem that you're just going to have to suck it up deals. That's going to be it. Is the Big Ten tournament is going to be a problem from a exhausting the player standpoint.
But it will not.
They won't care.
Oh, well, that's because it's going to. Oh my God, that's right. That's going to go to 5 days at least now.
Yeah.
But the one thing is, it will not be on the West Coast because the Big Ten is the last conference, I think, to finish before the NCAA.
Yeah. So unless you change it, unless you change it, which they have, they've played early in the past.
Well, they would have to play it. That the final game would have to be at like noon.
Yeah.
Or 1 o'clock at the latest.
Yeah, out west. Yeah, I mean they'd have to do something. Now they could go to Saturday night. Again, the Pac-12 suddenly just opened up a TV slot so you can do the Saturday night game. So you could do it that way and not play on Sunday at all. So they could do that. I'll ask before we go, I'll answer the Jarris Walker question. I was asked, just what do you think the ceiling is for Jarris Walker? No, I mean, I think he can be a starter. I mean, and I think he can be a really good one. I mean, I don't know that he's all-star caliber just because I don't know that he's going to be that kind of scorer. But I was really impressed with him defensively. I obviously knew that was his bread and butter to start with, and they certainly needed defensive help, and that was the reason why they dropped him in the first place. But what stood out to me in Vegas for Summer League was how quick his hands were. I think that really stood out to me. It was like he was able to really guard somebody on the perimeter. First time down, one of the first 2 or 3 possessions of Summer League, they put him on Bilal Koulibaly, the teammate of Victor Wembanyama on the Metropolitans 92 team in France. And he picked his pocket. I mean, he just, kind of tapped it around his back and took it from him. And I was like, all right, like that's a guard move, as far as defense. Just the way he was able to stick his hand in there and just, get a couple fingers on it and knock it towards him and just go take it down for a transition bucket. But I mean, just his ability to take somebody's handle away from them really stood out to me. So I mean, I think he could be a really good defensive player. I mean, I think he could be a top, like if he's going to be that good defensively and he's going to be able to score somewhere in the 12 to 15 points a game range, rebound like I think he can. Like I don't think he's hit his ceiling as how good of a rebounder he can be. I think he's got the capacity just between the athleticism and the wingspan. He didn't have crazy rebound numbers at Houston. I think he can have crazy rebound numbers and just be a really good defensive player. Again, I don't think he's going to be a 25 a game guy offensively. But if he can get just the buckets that you can get by being a good transition player, I think he can be a better shooter. I think he shot 34. He didn't shoot well at all in Vegas, but I think he can be a decent shooter. Nothing wrong with the shot. And I think he'd be a good transition finisher. I think he'd be a better finisher around the rim in general. He's a really good passer. So, I can't think of a comp off the top of my head. I'm not really good at that right now, but I think, I think he can be a starter and the type of guy like, he can be, Jeremy Grant just got a whole bunch of money. She's here. She's asleep upstairs. I swear. She is basking in it today. Maxine's asleep upstairs. Maxine is doing well. She's asked a couple people, if you're just listening on the radio, a couple questions on the internet asking about Maxine. She is in nice shape. She just stayed underneath the blanket this morning upstairs.
Probably it was raining. It's a little thunder out there, maybe.
Not thunder at all. She's just chilling. She's happy. She's blanketed up. She's just not moving.
She's living the dream, baby.
Exactly. She's taking a lazy day. She's here, I promise. But so she's not doing anything. We didn't kick her out. She's still in the house. She's just.
What's up next for you, my friend?
Not a lot, man. It's settling down. We got another camp this week. Miles Turner is going to have camp up in Westfield. So yeah, man, just little things will pop up from time to time. I had a cool story on slam ball last week. A couple guys from the Pacers dunk team are out there in Vegas.
Oh,
for
yeah, I
slam ball.
saw that.
So that was a fun story. I had a fun time writing that one about those guys. Cameron Hollins from Avon is having a really great performance out there. Marcus Gray from Jeffersonville and Nate Harris from Hammond. All were really helpful with their time, and slam ball guys were really great. Alerted me to that story, and that was a cool thing to write. So that was a fun thing to do. So I'm sure some other things will pop up. But yeah, we're just kind of checking in on guys, how their summers are going. So I'm looking forward to talking to Miles on Thursday. I think he's had a really fun summer. He was at some kind of, one of those Comic-Con deals, dressed up as Batman, and he solved a Rubik's Cube. Or was it Batman or something else? I don't know. Miles dresses up as everything. He had a Mandalorian helmet in the locker until the end of the season. He's wild, man. He's cool. Miles is a cool dude. He's an interesting, modern day Renaissance man who's really into comic books. So I'm interested to see what all Miles did this summer.
Next week we'll talk a little bit more about slam ball. I got to know more about it.
Perfect. It is what it sounds like, man. You don't jump on trampolines and dunk.
I used to do that. That was fun.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
Dustin Dopirak, thank you, brother. Go
Jim.
have a Maxine day.
We will. She's enjoying herself, I'm sure.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Back with more Indiana Sports Speed Radio right after this. Is the NASCAR race this weekend? Oh, shoot. Gosh, dang it. I've got to go to Charlotte this weekend to see my father. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Monday. It's August the 7th. Thanks a lot for being with us. Jim Coyle with you as always. I hope you had a great weekend. Ready for the week? Kind of starting off a little wet. Thunderstorms last night. A little rain today, it looks like. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Speed Radio brought to you by Hoosier Hank. Hank's Pizza Mac, located on North College. Great pizzas, back bowls, tot bowls. Very, very tasty. Close to Assembly Hall and all of the facilities up there on that end of town. In addition to great places like Feast Market and Cellar, located right next door to Southern Stone on Patterson and Rogers. Feast with a tremendous wine selection and incredible food as well. So make sure you stop in and visit them. Thanks a lot to Dustin Dopirak, man. That was fun. Lots of just so many questions that are not going to be answered for so long with all of the change, which that's fine. Scheduling, man, I cannot wait to see what the schedule is going to be like now. The football schedule, they've got to redo the football schedule. They have to redo the basketball schedule and decide how they're going to do the basketball schedule. You have to decide how you're going to do all of this. Are they going to go to 20 teams? If so, when are you going to do that? Are you going to wait? Are you going to do it now and get it over with? Because if you go to 20 teams, then you got to redo the schedule again. So if the scheduling is that difficult as we see them schedule these things out for 10 years, which I think is just stupid. Why would you? I think that's dumb. Just schedule the stupid thing yearly. Make it more competitive. Make it more balanced. They've shown they could do this. They just did it, and they're going to do it again. So I think that these schedules should be redone yearly. Sure, if they would redo the schedules yearly, I would love to see. I think I wouldn't mind seeing the 5-team pods if they were flex pods, where if you had to tweak one or two, move them back, year to year, you can, because you're doing the schedule year to year. So again, you go by success. There's a reason the state of Indiana in high school, they have the success rule that if a 3A team is just destroying people and they win a couple state championships, they get moved up to 4A. Well, I think that should be the same case here. Just make it more competitive. If you make it more competitive, the games will be better. You'll get more viewers for more games. That's just my opinion on that. But appreciate everybody on the Andy Moore Honda hotline today. You guys were very active. Greatly appreciate all the questions and comments, man. It was great. What would you like for me to say, Russell? I think we were in a break. You may not have known that. But appreciate you. Very much fun. Appreciate you, Russell. Appreciate everybody. How about the Cubs, man? Yeah, we didn't get to talk a lot about baseball. We'll do more about that tomorrow. The Reds play Miami. Who do the Cubs play? That is, I do not know. So, Russell, you may get it up on there before I can get to it. I meant to look that up, as a matter of fact, to see whom is playing whom in baseball today. So here we go. All right. So the Marlins are in Cincinnati. The National, it's not, you don't care about that. The Cubs are in New York to play K-Bros Mets. Although Ross thinks it's going to be a rain out today. So we'll see. Milwaukee is at home to the Colorado Rockies. Milwaukee and Cincinnati both have sucked. They've won only 3 games in their last 10, while the Cubs have won 7 out of their last 10 and have surged up the standings. They're in a second place tie with Cincinnati right now. They're both a game and a half back of Milwaukee. So I said, not only is Cincinnati working their way out of the division, they're trying to just walk right out of the wild card berth. Since Chicago, they got a shot of the playoffs now. Well, Russell, I hope your team does some magic. I cannot thank everybody enough. Big thanks to Dustin Dopirak, of course. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. I believe John, the producer, is back tomorrow. Everything back to normal. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.